Hello and welcome back to my channel. This video is the third part of the series for React interview questions with answers. In this part 3, we are going to prepare for another 20 React interview questions with answers. Before we get started, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, then please subscribe and watch the video till the end. Before we start, here is the short intro. So the first question is explain the lifecycle methods of React components in detail. So the React components have a lifecycle that consists of different phases, each with associated methods. These methods allows you to control and manipulate the behavior of components during various stages of their existence. In React version prior 16.3, the lifecycle methods were divided into three major phases, main phases, mounting, updating and unmounting. However, with the introduction of release 16.3, some of these methods were deprecated and new methods were introduced to provide better control and clarity. Here is a detailed explanation of the lifecycle methods in React. The mounting phase. First thing is the constructor. So the constructor is the first method called when a component is created. It is used for initializing state and binding event handlers. The second method is get derived state from props. This method is a static method that take props and state as parameters and return an object to update the state of null to indicate no changes. Render method. As we all aware, the render method is one of the key methods in the React. This render method is responsible for returning the JSX. JSX is the JavaScript UI representation, JSX of the component. This is mandatory method for a component and must be a pure function. In my previous video, we talked about pure and unpure functions. You can refer that video for more details on that. Then the third thing is component did mount. This component did mount method is called immediately after the component is mounted into the DOM, right? It is often used to fetch data from the APIs, set up subscriptions, or perform other initialization tasks. The updating phase. In the updating phase, we have a method called as get derived states from props. This method is also available during the updating phase and works similar to the open one in the mounting phase. It is same as the mounting phase. It is also available in the updating phase as well. Should component update. This is another method. This method invoked before rendering when new props or states are received. It allows you to optimize performance by returning false to prevent unnecessary re-rendering. The render method is also available in updating phase. This render method is called again to update the component's UI based on the new props and states. The other method which is available in this updating phase is called as get snapshot before update. This method is called right before the changes from the virtual DOM are reflected in the actual DOM. It allows you to capture some information from the DOM such as scroll position before it gets potentially changed. Right? The component did update. This method, component did update, is called after the component has been updated and the changes are reflected in the DOM. Right? It is often used to perform side effect like fetching new data based on props or interacting with the external libraries. The third phase is unmounting phase. In this unmounting phase, we have a method called as component will unmount. This component will unmount method is called right before the component is unmounted and destroyed. So this is the word like unmounted and it's destroyed. This allows us to perform any necessary cleanups which are required, like canceling network requests, clear timers, or removing event listeners. The other thing is error handling phase. This is something which can be incorporated in the new versions of React. The error handling phase has two more methods. So this is one which we already seen, like get derived state from error. This get derived state from error method is used to handle errors thrown by child components in their lifecycle methods. This allows us to update the state and render an error UI. The component did catch, error and info are the parameters for this particular method. This component did catch method is called after an error has been thrown by a child component. It is used to log the error information and perform any error handling logic. I have added one note in here which states as some of the deprecated lifecycle methods are available in the React, which are component will mount, component will receive props, and component will update. These three methods are being deprecated in the version 16.3 plus. This is recommended to use the new lifecycle methods or other alternative for specific use cases. We need to also remember that after React 18 introduced new changes to the component model, it includes the introduction of React hooks, which provide an alternative way to manage component state and lifecycle behavior using the React hooks. We can do that. The next question is, what does the term event refer to in the context of React? So, in the context of React, events are the responsive actions that occur in response to a specific user interactions such as mouse hover, mouse clicking, or key pressing. The process of handling these events in React is known as the traditional DOM elements, albeit with a few syntactical distinctions. Event names in React employ camel cases rather than lowercase. This is the difference we can say in terms of React syntax. Instead of passing event handlers as strings, they are passed as functions. This is another change we can see. And the event object itself encompasses a range of properties that are unique to each event type. These properties and behaviors can be accessed solely through their respective event handlers. So this is very much important in terms of what is event referring into the context of. So question number 23 is, what is the process of creating an event in React? Okay, so we can embed components into one in the following way. That is, this is the syntax for creating an event in React. Like we can create, for example, this is a display class which is having a div, and on click property value is a function. So here I can see on click and it calls this dot show method, which is a method in here. So yeah, that is how we can do it. The question number 24 is, what are synthetic events in React? So the synthetic events serve as a unified interface that wraps around the native events of various browsers in React. So by consolidating the behavior of different browsers into a single API, synthetic events ensure consists property for events across diverse browser environments. So different browser environments behave differently, but React is doing that by making the synthetic events inside React. Question number 25. What is your understanding of React refs? So the ref is a short-term name for references. This is an attribute that allows you to store a reference to a specific React element or component. This will be returned by the render function of the component. Refs are utilized to obtain references to specific elements or components rendered by the render method. They are particularly useful when you require access to DOM measurements or when you want to add methods to your component. Here is an example of creating a refs. So as you can see, this is a reference demo is a class, and we have created one constant name this input demo.value. So this input demo is our ref. As you can see in here, this is a syntax to create an input ref. So the syntax is like for this input component, we can create this ref which has this dot input demo is the reference for this particular component, and then we can use this component to get its value and display it in here, right? This is how we can display. So input demo is the reference for this input component. In here we are setting its value, input demo dot value, whatever user enter in that, we are setting it into the constant, and in the document dot get element by id, we are fetching this div, this span, and then setting its value. So it will display like hello Siger if I add some input value as Siger in that text box. Question number 26. Enumerate a few scenarios in which employing reference would be advantageous. So there are a couple of scenarios which we can use in here, where we can use the refs as a recommended for React. First thing is managing focus, text selection, or media playback. So when we have to programmatically manage focus of an input field, text area, or other interactive events, when we want to select or manipulate text within an input field or text area, and third is when you want to control the media playback like play, pause, or seek operations on an audio or video elements, we can use these ref runs for that. The other option is triggering imperative elements animations. So when we want to initiate imperative animations that require direct access to the underlying DOM elements, we can use refs. When using animation libraries or framework that rely on accessing DOM elements directly, we can use refs. That is very handy in that particular case. And when we have the third-party DOM libraries, right, we can use that refs. It is important, or that is very beneficial to use refs in that particular scenario for React. So when interacting React with extra libraries that manipulate the DOM directly, for example, jQuery, d3.js, or other UI libraries, we can use refs. When we need to access or manipulate specific DOM elements managed by external libraries, we can use refs. That is very handy in that case. And in these cases, we can use refs, which will allow us to directly obtain references of the DOM elements inside our React components. It will enable us to perform imperative operations and interact with external libraries very easily by relying on the direct DOM manipulation. This is how we can use. These are the different of advantages available for this React. Question number 27 is, what is the approach to code modularization in React? So these are the different two approaches by which we can do the code modularization in React. This is child component and this is parent component. So we can import the child component inside parent component like this, import child component from child component.js file, and here we can then provide that parent child component in the parent component itself, and then we can use it. By utilizing the export and import features, we have the ability to modularize code effectively. This property enables us to write components in separate files, enhancing code organization and maintainability. So the modularization means separating the code into different small components that we can use as modularization. What is the approach to creating forms in React? So the React forms share similarities with HTML forms, but they operate differently. In React, the state is stored within the component state property and can only be updated through the setState method. Consequently, the form elements cannot directly modify their own state, and the submission process is managed by a JavaScript function. This possesses complete access to the user entered data within the form. What is the approach to creating forms in React? How we can create a form in React? So this is a form tag. As you can see, this is let me do that one more time. So this is a form tag with onSubmit method, where we are calling this handle submit method once the form is submitted, and it will have the values like this dot state dot value will be available for whatever value has been entered in this input form. right? If the value has been changed in the text box, then also we are calling this handle submit. And when the user submits the form, we are also calling the same method again to get the state value of that particular input text box. Question number 2019, can you provide an explanation of controlled and uncontrolled components? Yeah, here are the explanations for that. The control components do not maintain their own state, while uncontrolled components they maintain their own state. Data is controlled by the parent component, whereas in uncontrolled component, the data is controlled by the DOM. The control component can take in the current values through props and then notify the changes via callback, while for the uncontrolled components, refs are used to get their current values. Okay, so what are higher order components or HOC? So the concept of higher order component in React is an advanced technique. It is an advanced technique for reusing the component logic. It leverages React's compositional nature to create custom components that wrap around other components. The higher order components have the ability to accept dynamically provided child components without modifying or copying any behavior from those input components. In a sense, HOCs can be considered as pure components. Okay. Okay, so these are the top other 10 questions for the React interview preparations for you with the answers of those questions. I hope you like my video and the content. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do subscribe and press the bell icon to get the notification whenever I am uploading new video for this. And you can also drop a comment in the video so that to let me know what you feel about the video, and also if you want to have a video on some other topics like this. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.